Last year, DJI released the Ronin 4D, and out of all my crazy testing, the best part of that system, the part that blew me away the most, was the wireless transmission.
Range.
I think it's 20,000 feet.
That's nearly 6 kilometers.
You want to test it?
Boasting a 20,000-foot range, we tested it in the heart of Los Angeles and got a staggering 5 blocks, not just of clean feed, but full gimbal control, as well as follow focus. That's past concrete buildings, power lines, and massive cell phone towers. Simply mind-blowing.
That's seriously impressive.
And now, they unsurprisingly hit us with this. The exact same wireless system, only you don't need the Ronin 4D. This is the king of transmission systems, the one that rules them all. A transmission system with a high brightness monitor receiver. Weighing in at 350 grams, this transmitter claims to send 1080p signal up to 60 frames per second, nearly 6 kilometers. This episode, we're gonna test that.
All right, so we all know the range is good, but I wanna know just how good. So the kit comes with this case. Inside the case, you have the transmitter, a 1500 nit high brightness monitor, a hot shoe quick release for the RS3 Pro, 2 Crystal Sky batteries, a battery charger, a swappable battery bay if you prefer to use industry NPF batteries instead, various cables, 4-pin LiMo to LiMo, LiMo to DTAP, SDI to SDI, and a LiMo to USB-C for powering the RS3 Pro. Currently, the RS3 Pro and the Ronin 2 are the only gimbals that the system connects and offers gimbal control. And for that, you'll also have to purchase the Ronin 4D grips sold separately. It can't work on the RS3 standard, and it can't work on the RS2. But you could use it just as a transmitter on any camera.
It connects via SDI or HDMI, runs on a 6-volt to 18-volt power supply,
and it comes with dual frequency bands with auto channel switching for the best anti-interference.
Oh yeah, it's the same high brightness monitor from the Ronin 4D.
Like, you could use this to control the Ronin 4D, but you'd actually have to have that transmitter that comes with the Ronin 4D. This you couldn't use with the Ronin 4D. Straight out the box, it'll connect to the monitor with picture up in about 24 seconds. And despite many different locations, it's connected every single time without issue. The same applies when tethered to the RS3. What's really cool is that you can have 2 control monitors synced up to the transmitter and controlling the RS3 or Ronin 2 at the same time in control mode, but you can have unlimited in broadcast mode. So if you're working a big set and you have Video Village and you have monitors for each department, you can just have as many of those as you want. Now, there is a quality drop when you do it in broadcast mode, and you have to have at least 1 monitor in control mode. It's a very powerful tool, especially when it connects that fast. Guys, we didn't even talk about the Sony camera control menu. Inside here, there's a widget you can activate, and once it's activated, you can access the entire menu, you can access the directional keypad, and you can assign shortcuts to those directional keypad in the Sony camera. The best part is this function is all through HDMI. You don't need RS3 Pro or set up any Bluetooth connection. Sony created this a few years ago so that you could connect your HDMI cable to your television and be able to control your camera through the television's remote. And DJI takes this small little tiny detail and makes this. Open the monitor menu, go to general settings, then screen settings. You must have a transmitter powered on and connected first, and then you'll see this option for virtual widget. To open this in the Sony menu, go to your toolbox, folder 11, enable control HDMI. And if you want to have the entire Sony screen mirrored on the monitor so you can access the menu remotely, click HDMI info display. Now this becomes an absolute powerhouse if you customize the directional pad in the Sony camera. Those changes transfer over to the widget. With a push on the virtual widget, you can toggle on or off autofocus, image stabilization, APS-C mode, the list goes on. On the Sony camera side, this function only works with cameras with Bravia Sync, so cameras like the FX6 and FX9 and the Sony Venice don't support this. Go to the Sony website for manuals, type in Bravia, and if a search comes up with your model number, you should have it. All right, so if you were me, what's the first thing you would do to test this out? Looks like we're building something.
So it wouldn't be a Make Art Now episode unless I busted out the 5-year-old M600 Pro. We're using a Rig Wheels cloud mount as an extra dampener plate and attaching the RS3 with the DJI expansion base kit.
We're gonna have to put this on Apple boxes. You got any Apple boxes?
This is essentially the car mount I used in Anamorphia 2, just inverted.
That was inverted.
Now these are 2 separate systems, but we are going to talk about the RS3 Pro for a little bit because they work so well together.
Oh no. Oh, that was a bad idea.
I'm
I'm guessing we're gonna get about 2 to 3 hours in using a single battery to balance such a heavy lens, as well as power this transmitter. Alright, this is like super sketchy. Since we needed a drone pilot to test this, we decided to meet up with Corey from Hollywood Drone Kings at the Van Nuys Recreational Air Park. Is that a jet?
That's a jet that just flew by.
We're gonna put it on my drone first, and then we're gonna put it on his FPV. Do you think it's gonna be helpful, like having this set up for FPV systems?
100%. I'm really interested to see if it'll actually not stomp on the signal on the DJI FPV like other systems do.
One of the strengths of this system is you can go into the receiver settings on the monitor and switch from auto to manual. You can also switch from 20 megahertz to 40 megahertz bandwidth, and you can choose the channels in between. And because I knew none of this before I started this episode, here's my one sentence rundown. The 2.4 gigahertz goes much farther and has more penetrating powers through walls and trees and such, whereas 5.8 gigahertz carries more data, can broadcast better quality signals, but for shorter distances. Now this is imperative to know if you're an FPV pilot, but for a filmmaker, this transmitter does it automatically, so you don't need to worry about it. I honestly think this transmitter is gonna be huge in the FPV world. It's not only just the range, you can control the gimbal from that far too.
Dual FPV operation, can you imagine?
Do people do that?
They will now.
I just want to let everyone know, Connor edited this one. I did not edit this, so if it's a steaming pile of dog, this is it.
No, seriously, that's badass.
You know the best part? It's good luck on every single one of my shoots. Do you hear that, Gerald?
All of my shoots.
The funny thing is, Connor is Gerald Undone's biggest fan, and it breaks my heart.
He's just so much better than you.
He's so much better. He is better than me.
So you brought the small guns out.
And it's almost the same size as the RS2. It's just this part's a little bit longer.
This is a little longer and has a better adjustment too. Look at that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Now Corey is a seasoned pro, is very excited about the possibility of this wireless system when flying on his FPV rigs. And so were some of his friends. These are Corey's friends.
Up and to the right, up and to the right.
From an ease of use standpoint, this is a plug and play transmitter. You turn it on, it connects instantly to the motor, no fuss, no hassle. So we got the transmission to connect instantly. We're still having issues with getting the gimbal control connected. I don't even know what cable to plug in what port. That is to say, as long as you have the correct cables plugged in the correct spots.
Problem solved. We have this limo to the bottom one right here, and that's it, and that gives us full control.
Yeah, a little joystick action for you.
So Atlas has no idea that I'm putting their 65mm lens up in the air. All right, we're here at Atlas. So they saw what I shot, they loved it, and now they're letting me borrow 2 more lenses. So I hope I don't crash.
Don't
Seriously.
tell Atlas or
Don't tell.
Liberty Mutual.
Connor's got a great insurance policy. Thanks, Connor.
If you're looking for insurance.
Now, full disclosure, DJI paid me to do a full review, but instead we're gonna do an extreme test. We're gonna see how far this thing goes, what the latency is, and what applications this transmission might be best suited for. Now, I just want to clarify, this is a stress test, so we probably shouldn't have done this. We wanted to test both the transmission system and the gimbal at the same time. Now, this lens is 7.5 pounds, and I was not expecting smooth shots from this Frankenstein setup. This is the Atlas Orion 65mm anamorphic lens, and it works great when mounted to the RS3 Pro with the longer arms. It's stunning. Besides the drone vibrating like an out-of-tune washing machine, the test went well. Now, the Matrice has its own transmission system, which we normally use for the shoots, but for this one we used both, and they both worked fine in auto, but the Matrice's feed did cut out after a few hundred feet, while our main transmission system worked perfect. And my ADD just kicked in. I know how to fix a vibration issue. Use a wider lens.
We're about to throw it on the fucking...
We got it.
You got it.
The limited edition $15,000 Atlas Orion 25mm 2x stretch. Switch to some slow-mo, cue the Philip Bloom music. Problem solved. We successfully got all systems to work, video feed, gimbal control, focus, and even camera settings all from several hundred feet away using the transmission system in an RS3 Pro combo. Now that we've fully tested Connor's insurance policy and heart rate, let's switch to the transmission part of the test.
Holding.
This air park is at the heart of San Fernando Valley, about a mile from Van Nuys Airport. It's chock full of frequencies and rebar and forced cement. We switched to Corey's more modest FPV drone with the intention of sending it out until we lost signal.
Dude, it is good. There's barely any breakup at all.
The transmitter's range surprised the guys, going farther and farther, clear across the park, all the way to the freeway, a staggering 4,000 feet.
Genuinely impressed. Like, I gotta say. Dude, I'm baffled. This is better than my FPV video feed when I was flying that. Not kidding.
It probably could have kept going, but they literally ran out of park. Fuck. We're gonna have to do another test. Using a specially designed car mount, I teamed up with my all-time favorite stunt driver for an extreme range test.
Thanks, baby.
A drive through Middle America suburbs.
You're doing great.
Now in this test, I was very surprised because the range cut out after 700 feet,
All right, I've lost signal. Stop right there.
then picked back up after 1,000 feet. It did this all 3 times, even with the high gain antennas, which tells me 2 things. Number 1, in auto mode, the 5.8 gigahertz, which has more channels and less interference, most likely tops out between 700 and 1,000 feet due to the heavily wooded area and no line of sight. Then switches to the 2.4 gigahertz to pick up the slack. You trade quality and less interference for a farther but less potent signal. And number 2, one of my neighbors is definitely stealing cable television. And just when you thought there was a problem, DJI has a solution. Normally with these video transmitters, you get like 10 channels in the 5 gigahertz range. DJI gives us 20, and those extra 10 channels are reserved channels. Those are special channels used for weather stations and military radar. To access those are called DFS. Basically, you go into manual mode and you can select it. Now, by law, we're allowed to use them, but they has to listen and scan that channel for at least a minute to make sure that it's clear. Is it legal? It better be legal. You better not be messing with my tornado warnings. I swear to God, I am in Tornado Alley. What was that?
All right, we're gonna try this again. Drive as far as you can. I'll tell you when it cuts out.
We visited the backside of the interference area. This time we had clear line of sight. We switched into DFS mode to deal with the interference. And well, turns out I was flat wrong. The 5 gigahertz range is much farther than 1,000 feet.
So what are the chances they can make it to the other side of the freeway? Wow, it still hasn't cut out. Oh, it just started cutting out now. We made it all the way to the end of the park, which is like 3,000 feet that way. And then she had to turn left and go through an underpass. And once we hit the underpass, that's when we lost it. What the hell is that? Here out in the middle of nowhere, our last and final testing of just straight highway, nothing. So these are the high gain antennas. They work just like that, or in this circumstance, we can run them outside the car so that the actual car doesn't give any interference. All right, so here we go. We'll just run these. See, but that will work. All right, there we go.
Passing the trees, that's where the big antenna is, and that's when I lost it.
That's 3 miles.
But it was super clear.
I can confirm for myself where this thing cuts out at. So it's 3 miles to the edge of the tree. Wow, that thing is really, really clear. Hey, it went 2.5 miles. Woo! 2.5 miles. We dipped down below, and then there was a church and obviously a big tower.
I don't think you guys understand how difficult it is finding on a map a truly straight road that goes 4 miles that's not around any sort of interference or that doesn't bend or have trees that just block. Connor says that you're better than me in every single way. There's no flat roads out here. I don't know how to test this. Arthur doesn't know how to test it either.
The manufacturers are always like, and you have to validate it. They're always claiming like 20,000 feet or whatever, but it's impractical. It's like, think about how far 20,000 feet is. Who are they giving these to? They're like directors or whatever. It's like director's monitor, right?
Right.
So what are you doing with that? You're like, 50 feet away on set, like making sure everything works. 20,000 feet. What did they do? Like James Cameron, you're gonna be filming Titanic 3, you're going to like the bottom of the Marianas Trench or something like that. Like, what do you need 20,000 feet for? Ridiculous.
All right, the last and final test. We are out here 4 miles that way. It's nothing. We are out in the middle of farm country. Let's see if this thing does what it says it's supposed to do. All right, look at this array. First of all, I just want to say how impractical this is.
It really is line of sight if you don't have...
What's more impressive is being able to film inside of a building and then go around the block. That's way more impressive. We're still good. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, having to wave to strangers. Starting to break apart now. Did I see the deer?
Yeah, there's about 4 of them over here.
No, I did not. See ya. And on the way home, I decided to keep it interesting and leave the camera in the other car rolling. The car's nowhere around. She's like up over the hill. I've done plenty of car shoots where having the follow car far enough out of the shot is important. She's way down there. Out of all my testing, the most I got out of this, 5.6 kilometers or 16,630 feet. I don't know, DJI, I'm a little disappointed. I really thought we could have had 20,000. I think it's all kind of relative. I mean, if this is wintertime and there's no leaves on the trees, I'm sure this probably would have gone 5 or 6 miles instead of the 4 mile mark. Like, I'm sure if you're in Antarctica and there's nothing around, this thing will go for like 50 miles. You know what I mean? It's all relative of where you are. Very impressive. A more practical test of the range would be inside a building, going through walls and such. From the bottom of my bomb shelter basement, every floor, 3 floors up. Now we're going out the front yard. Image has gotten better. Now we're going down the street. There's my house all the way there. I'm all the way at the edge of my street and I still have signals. This is seriously impressive. Oh, starting to break up now. The latency, 68 milliseconds. Whoa, dude. 68 milliseconds isn't bad. It's about a 2-frame delay if you're shooting 30 frames per second. A little bit of a delay when compared to 40 milliseconds or even sub 1 millisecond for like the super top of the line transmitters. But I think that's a good trade-off considering the price, the range, and you get full gimbal control as well as camera controls for select Sony mirrorless cameras. I mean, being able to change camera setting 4,000 feet away is just, it's mind-blowing. I think this is gonna be fantastic on the rental market, so I think I'm actually gonna put it on ShareGrid so that you guys can mess around with it. There's one last thing that I wanna test out because I do think it's gonna be huge with the FPV guys.
This is at my good luck at HDMI. Every time I shoot on that HDMI.
Secure. I think what we were concerned about at first was the communication between that and if we have any interference,
yeah,
with, like on set where it would just cause the thing to come fail-safe, fall out of the sky. So I don't want that to happen to the money shot. So we were, so we were.
Do they interfere with each other?
They don't interfere with each other as long as you're running on the 2.4 signals.
What's your thoughts on the transmitter in terms of FPV drone capability?
So,
okay, that's all the time we have today. Thanks, buddy.
I won't air that.
I'm out. Cut. I still have your transmitter. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, I want that back. I want that back.
Nope.
So whether it's 20,000 feet or 16,630 feet, it's frankly more power and range than I'll ever need. Special thanks to my friends who made this video possible.